Yesterday was kind of a big day. I know I was curious to see the coaches being introduced. Hadn't seen DQ in a while. I know I made a point of watching all three press conferences.
I didn't think about this at the time, but was he even a smidge tan? Because he told Jason and I that when it hits the offseason, he goes to his house in Hawaii.
Well, who wouldn't? Of course he's probably.
I'm just wondering because he's fair skinned.
In detail, I did not notice.
I didn't think about it till just now.
I did not notice.
Think about all the hours he grinds in Ashburn during the season, and even like during the off season. Like that dude, any NFL head coach, they deserve.
That's what he might do.
They are grinding.
What do they go 12-5? But when they go 5-12 and they're going to replace two coordinators and a bunch of other assistants,
he's got to stay in Ashburn.
I think he's probably grinding maybe a little bit more.
Now it may not have been as long a vacation this offseason as last season.
Well, I think it still will be in the coming months.
Right.
I'm sure he'll go back to Hawaii.
Maybe. I didn't notice his tan. I didn't notice that.
Did you?
First of all, I've come to realize that DQ doesn't really say anything. He just kind of goes through the motions, and
he's very personal. Like
he's very nice and personal, but he doesn't give you any specifics.
He does the Cal Ripken bit, which a lot of speakers do, where he'll always include the name somewhere in there. So he'll answer a question, and then all of a sudden he'll go. Like David Aldridge asked him a question. He'll start answering the question. And he goes, and DA.
Right, you know DA. But he doesn't really answer the question.
But that's impressive to remember everybody's name.
Sure.
And
except he sees those people every day.
He's a personable person. Yeah, but I see people every day and I forget their names.
Yeah, I ditto.
I do too.
Same exact
I'm not good at names. But he's good at that, and he's a nice person. But I've come to realize that DQ pressers are a snooze fest.
It's coach speak.
He's coach speak. He doesn't give you anything.
But I think that's
That's probably standard for most of them.
Standard. I think some guys that's why I love Jay. I think Jay would answer questions.
I don't
honestly.
think any coach is gonna give you what you want. They're gonna go, you know what, Bobby Wagner's washed. We need to get a faster linebacker.
I'm not expecting you to say
they're gonna say the stuff like, me and Dante met and we figured out what's the best way to put them in the best positions.
But if you say, and this was a question to him, something to the effect of, why did you make a change on an offensive coordinator? He basically didn't say anything. He didn't say.
Yeah.
He gave nothing. He just kind of said, kind of vaguely.
Yeah, of course.
He just said nothing.
He's going to dance around it.
And then they followed up. Nikki, I think, asked him, at what point did you realize that you're probably going to have to make a change? And he said, oh, Nikki, yeah, great question. And he didn't answer the question.
Because he's not going to tell you when AP told me to.
Changes are hard. As you're going through, you build these relationships that are strong, John, with people and players. And so when there's time for change, those are difficult conversations, discussions. But at the end, you just keep going back. What's the best thing for the team moving forward? What's the best thing for them? And so if I put it into those spaces, what do we need to do moving forward? What things need to change? And how would we go about that? Then you look at it from that lens. And that's certainly what I had to do because it's a difficult part of it. You build bonds with coaches and with players. And so when you move on from them, it's challenging. But that's also, I recognize the seat that I'm in to put us in the very best spot that we can do those.
He loves talking about spaces.
Yeah,
he does.
It's the cliches he likes to use. Ready to rock with
those
you.
Those are conversations we have all year long about where it goes. And I've got tons of respect for both Kliff and for Joe, what they do, how they, go about it. These guys worked incredibly hard, over the 2 years here. So I thought it was time for change, a new vision of how we'd want to go about it, John. And so that's what we did.
But he didn't say why, gave no real details. Just time for change, thought it was better for the team.
Very general answers.
Very general.
I think the one thing that you could maybe say to add to it, the unspoken thing is, time to change because we sucked this year.
Of course. But
I wish he would say that.
Say specifically, the production wasn't there, or I needed more of this, or we had philosophical differences between how much we wanted to run the ball and pass the ball. Nothing. No specifics.
Later on, and we're going to talk about it, they do talk about kind of a new direction for the offense.
Vaguely.
Well, they're not going to give you specifics.
Very vaguely.
Yeah, they're going to be under center more.
Don't sleep on the Kliff Kingsbury revenge game. Rams come to Northwest Field this season.
That'll be a tough game.
That's a big one.
That'll be a tough game.
Yep.
I will play. Let's play clip 8, and then I'll give you my thoughts on Dante and Blough. Play clip 8, where he's asked about what gave him confidence that Blough's ready to be the play caller.
I know he hasn't been coaching a long time, but he has, obviously when you're a backup quarterback at different things, you had different experiences, much like a younger coach coming up. But I can also speak from experience that, when you haven't called plays, you've been waiting for it, you've been doing it, and in the practices, you'll probably find some spaces where do we go to have more call-it periods to go, but we'll be really intentional about that. Some of the benefits of me going through this experience, as a head coach for the second time, I learned some lessons to say, all right, when there's talented space and you can find that, certainly going through Atlanta and some of the coaches that were part of that staff, have we done things different? You might have. So I think what you want to find out from yourself is, are you growing? Are you learning? And this guy's absolutely ready to go attack. And so it was evident to see that. But when you're around somebody a lot, you know that too.
All right, a couple overall observations. One thing just relating to that clip. Blough talked about it, and the clips we have of Blough are with Grant and Danny. But in his presser, he talked about how he felt welcomed and mentored from DQ from the jump, the moment he got there. And DQ did things, and I think this is what he's talking about, that maybe he wish he had done more in Atlanta with his staff, is he gave him opportunities to talk to the team.
He empowers them.
He gave him opportunities to call plays in certain practices and certain moments.
I think
so
that
slowly building up his experiences.
I think that's becoming very in vogue with a lot of successful teams, is that if they see talent on the coaching ranks, like they'll say, hey, give me a script. Give me a script that you would do for this upcoming game, or hey, we're gonna let you call plays during the scrimmage that we're gonna have during scout team offense and whatever.
Right, and
they're trying to find stuff for him to prove to the coaching staff and everybody else that you can handle the extra responsibility.
That and also help them grow professionally.
Yeah, he's given opportunities.
All of that. So it was very good. I like that. I have overall observations. We're going to play these clips of Dante, then we'll get to Blough. I think they're two totally different people. By the way, I'm supportive of both hires. I like both hires. Who knows? They may blow up and never work. But I like both hires on paper. And then having seen the guys, they're different vibes. Blough, I would say, was almost more professorial. He is not. He's just like you could tell, a smart guy. He's not as maybe caught up in the emotion. When
it's a little dull. Football coach. Let's be honest, a little bit dull.
No, he's a boring guy. He's a boring guy. He's not a very emotional guy.
Well, Kingsbury was too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jones is more the first.
I think you'd rather hang out with Kingsbury off the field.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But in pressers, very dull.
The first thing that jumped out at me with Durante was kind of his passion, especially when he talks about a story. All the different levels from high school, we've talked about it all. Division I, Division II, Division III, CFL, NFL, LSU. He's coached at every level. He slept in his car, he said, at 23, and he slept in his car at 33.
But it sounds like you're talking about Joe Witt now, because initially when Joe Witt was introduced, people were talking about his passion. He's going to be fired up.
I'm not saying that one means you're going to be successsul, one's not. I think they're both going to be successful. I'm just saying they have two different styles. Mm-hmm. And Durante talks about his relationships. He's a big relationship guy, and how that's going to be sort of the key to his success, the foundation of his success. And Blough is more, I can tell, he's more of a scientist. He's more of a
X's and O's guy.
He's more of a professor. It's just the vibe I got. I think he's still into relationships. But not, it's just different. Yeah. They're just different guys. And I think that both could be successful.
The interesting question, and you're right, Quinn doesn't say anything to me in that presser, was, hey, you kind of told us reporters that you weren't just going to hire two guys that were inexperienced doing this job. Yeah. How do you explain?
He didn't really articulate it well. Yeah. But what I gathered from reading the reports up to the hire was that Durante blew him away. Durante blew him away, and he had to call around and go, how come you guys haven't hired? Like, this guy's ready. Like, he had all the right answers. And actually, Durante does blow you away when he talks about there's 4 different learning styles. Auditory or whatever. He went through all of them.
He's a prepared dude.
He's like, I have to figure out, does this guy learn by, seeing? Does he learn by film? Does he learn by hearing? And then he has individual, and you know this from being parents, right? And your wife being in the education system, individual IEPs right? Which is what they have in school for kids, like if you have special learning needs or whatever.
Yeah.
Individual plans for each player already. And then he's going to tweak it as he meets the player and find out, again, how they learn better. How can I get the best out of each player? It was very, very impressive.
It is incredible to think about David Blough in particular and how, first of all, how young this guy is who's going to be running an offense. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's only been out of college for, I don't know, 7-8 years.
Right.
And hasn't coached that much. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was just playing
up
up.
A lot of experience. You're right.
He was playing up until 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now he's running an NFL offense.
Well, it kind of answered
It's crazy.
that.
And you're seeing that a lot around the league.
He kind of answered that in the sense that, listen, he wishes he could have played more, obviously, but that the next best thing to do was being in that ear and understanding play calling, and that was the next closest thing I could do.
And you're in a quarterback room.
Yeah, and
as a professional player,
right?
Whether you're a backup with your third string, whatever, you're in the quarterback room, game planning, and all that stuff.
Was with. He saw the relationship and the way quarterback and offensive coordinator, quarterback and head coaches work with Kirk, with
Jared Goff,
with Stafford,
Kyler.
Yeah. I mentioned them all by their first names actually because he was in there firsthand. Yeah. And he's been in there firsthand.
I'm not saying he hasn't learned a lot. I'm just, it's still amazing that someone so young who hasn't had a lot of experience calling the plays during the game
so the newer
is
trend
now
in the
doing
NFL.
It. Right.
Like
it really is.
These guys are getting younger and younger.
He also talked about how since he couldn't be the guy, he wasn't athletically gifted enough to have that opportunity to be the guy delivering the football and calling the plays in the huddle. The next closest thing and the thing he's aspired to would be to call the plays in the helmet.
That must be frustrating for him that he's so good cerebral wise. Right. He just didn't have the vessel to deliver it.
I mean, he had a pretty good.
He played in the NFL, so it's a great accomplishment. Right. But I mean, he was always like a second or third stringer.
Right.
But it must be tough for him. Yeah. But it's a great outlet. Obviously, now he can use that to help. Jaden is now his vessel. Jaden is his guy. As far as delivering the goods.
Let's go to Dante, who, again, also talked about being local, and he went to Kenmore, which I think some of our kids went to Kenmore or my siblings. I think your brother went to Kenmore, didn't he?
I don't know.
One of my siblings went to Kenmore
But he's a DMV guy through and through. From Capitol Heights.
Yeah. Play clip 12 on what he feels is the most important trait to bring to his new role.
Relationships. I think one of my strengths is the ability to connect to people. I've taught at every different level. I've coached at every different level from Division I, Division II, Division III, 1AA, high school. I've taught high school, coached in the CFL, and now in the NFL. And what you come to find out is when you've been on so many different levels, you come across so many different people, right? And they come from all different backgrounds of life, and you got to find a way to meet them where they are. That connection allows the relationship to grow, that it can allow the growth of that person to get to the highest levels and they can maximize their abilities. And so I intend to get to know these players as I've already done so far on a personal level, talk about their wives and their kids and so forth. But that's my strength, is the ability to connect and build relationships and to teach. And then everything else shows up on the tape.
Another thing he said, and we won't have time to go through all these clips, but what is the one thing you're going to see when you see your Washington defense led by you?
Yeah.
And I thought it was an interesting answer. He said joy.
Right.
You're going to see joy from these players out there playing football, playing together as a team. I thought
it's not an answer you would expect.
That was a different answer, but I liked it.
Yeah, it was good.
I did like it.
It's a good take on it.
See, these guys are going to love football.
Right.
They're going to love playing together as a team. And he talked about sacrifice, and I don't have the cliches down that he had, but sort of how you look at sacrifice differently as like, what am I giving up? Not looking at it that way. You're looking at it, how can I help the team versus what am I giving up to help? You know what I'm saying?
Look, he had interviews with I think at least 4 or 5 teams, and his star is clearly rising.
Yeah, super experienced guy.
This is a great opportunity.
He sounds like a really good dude.
Doesn't that seem?
Even though he went to McNamara,
doesn't that seem so much more refreshing than Joe? Like looking back on it, when Joe Witt was introduced, we all got like blinded by his. Oh, we're gonna be violent. We're gonna arrive violently, which is kind of fake tough guy
and he
stuff.
avoided saying that stuff. He said, "I'm not going to give you all the cliches." He kind of avoided that specifically because Scott Abraham asked him. People like narratives. Give us the narrative of how your team's going to play. He said, "I'm not going to really give you that." But one thing he did say, and let's play this quickly. He says what he saw from the 20-25 defense, it made me raise my eyebrows. This is from what he saw from Washington's defense.
Young and athletic. I would say young and athletic. I know there's
I thought we were old and slow.
There's some older pieces there, but for the most part, especially the guys that we have in our system here, you look at the back end with, we're talking about Samer Steele, Trey Amos, Quan Martin, Will Harris. Those guys are athletic. Then you throw in a Reeves in there as well, who provides some versatility. And Owen's also another guy who's versatile. You look at McGee, you look at Luvu, you look at Madrano. Those guys are athletic and they're young. And up front, you have some savvy vets up there, and then you have Newton, who's also a young player who has some mobility inside in the interior D-line. And so when you look at that, the first thing that jumps off the tape is these guys can run and hit. And so you definitely want to use that to where guys are going forward versus going backwards.
It was also interesting to me, if you noticed.
Well, they were running a lot. They were chasing players.
The first thing he talked about, though, was the back end of the defense. He's a secondary guy.
Yes.
That's his background, secondary coach. Yep. And so his eyes immediately go to the secondary. And I do think that that is a younger-ish group, and there are some pieces there that we can build around. But on the whole, I wouldn't say that we were young and athletic.
No. That might be
he's being
a little
positive.
Bit of diplomacy there.
He's being positive.
Yeah.
When we come back, can we get it a little bit more? I'm still not done with this. I want to get into Blough. I want to hear Blough when he was on with Grant and Danny, and then maybe we could take some calls from you guys. Any of this motivate you, or is it just coach speak, blah, 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 standard press conference, I'll believe it when I see it? I can understand that. Maybe we'll bang out some of your calls when we come back. Don't go anywhere.